in attending that webinar or at least speaking in that webinar. So if it's in person, it's $250 and up. This is based on that sponsorship tier um that we guys have that we have, and we also have the webinar or virtual, which is on what type of access they can have um towards joining those webinars. And it is important to note that they are paying these because they are trying to access the number of people or the number of people that are present in those webinars. They'll feel free to jump in if I'm like if
No,
I'm not
no,
explaining everything.
you're explaining it clear. It's it comes with repetition. So
Okay.
just to kind of help double down on what he's saying. So when the you guys are speaking to professionals, you have the option that they have the option because you're inviting them to either come be a guest at one of the webinars or come speak at one of the webinars. If they want to speak at one of the webinars, they see the different tiered levels where their sponsorship can grow, meaning they can start at very nominal where it's for $25. What are they going to get? They're going to get the table set up, they're going to get presentation time in front of the room, they're going to get their logo in front of that table, they're going to get a link that connects to them, and they're going to get connected with everyone that attended, right? And follow up details for everyone that attended, right? As well as the content from that particular webinar, and their speaking, so they can then use that for their own social push. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
Yes.
perfect. So as those price points go up, as those tiers go up, which you'll see more again when you look in on the actual webinar registration, you'll see where it goes from that basic to premium, where it's at $100 for that experience, because that experience gives them for that time slot the same things you guys have, like an office that's designed and it has links to their professional things where their presentation can be pulled up and person can click a link to connect to them and so forth and so on, right? Because we give that, remember how the webinars run, and we'll go into the webinars when it's my turn, but it's that 30 minutes back to back. So it's 15 to 20 minutes of the presentation portion, and then that 10-15 minutes, depending on how it works, of Q&A, and networking, where everyone is able to then now go into the lab office and go into those specific speakers dedicated office to connect with them privately after everything is done. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Go ahead,
All right.
Bruce.
All right. Just to add to that, it is also important that on those discovery calls that um this is why it's important to like build those rapport or the rapport with the person that you're speaking with. And you also have to like take note on whether that would be the perfect chance to like introduce them to the paywall and everything. Because it's important to note that you are just establishing like that connection with them, and then with like you could offer them these opportunities maybe after your call on the post discovery call email that you're going to send out to them. um because you would not want to like just shove it up their face, right? Like right off the bat. So you would want to like actually build that connection and see on where their interests align. So for example, you could say, hey, we actually have seminars, or like are you would you be interested to join? Here's blah 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 blah, and stuff like that. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I had trouble with that on my first semester, or like understanding what that is. But now since this organizational chart or this flow chart is here, it kind of makes sense now on like how you're going to tackle and approach that situation. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yep.
So perfect. Before you continue on that, I'm glad everyone again is here. We do our best to kind of make this all make sense in a compact amount of time. So it is a lot of information. So if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to pause the room and ask, because your question may very well be someone else's question, and we want everyone to be on the same page so we can then keep this going, exciting for everyone involved. Make sense? Cool.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Okay, does
Cool.
anyone have any questions before we proceed? Going once, going twice. All right, let's proceed. Okay, before we proceed, so it's actually the LabCo initiative creates these campaigns that fuel the webinars, and the webinars fuel everything else. Okay, so next is the LabCo initiative and the social media campaign. Um, as you all know, Neville has mentioned that we do have a 16-week social media campaign. Um, so from the back end, when we talk with these professionals, when we talk to the lab co-director of professionals, we actually have our own specific invite codes that we send out to these professionals, which then they will use on the jot forms that we have. So it's like a multiple streams of inflow of getting people to like sign up for these activations. So on a social media campaign, as you all know, Labco is like an umbrella company. So it has four different branches: the mortgage and realty, which is Neville's side; leaders are born; um, the UEF, which is the gaming aspect; and then the kid enlightenment, which is the I think the learning. Um,
Early childhood education.
yeah, early childhood education. So each one of those branches are posting or have automated posts on them on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, which has their own specific invite code that is unique to them, which then they could use to fill up the jot forms that we have. Um, so the webinars or the events from the webinars will actually fuel those as well, because some of the pictures on those social media posts are going to be coming from the seminars or webinars, which is very important on how we keep the heartbeat going on. So the jot form, we have different form types according to which branch it is. So for the mortgage and realty, we have the mortgage application, which then proceeds the real estate campaign, care of Kong Tao, and then the webinar registrations. So the webinar registration here has a case-to-case newsletter. Um, Not everything will have a newsletter because it depends on which type. I think only the medical, the professionals, and the real estate is going to have that newsletter. Um, So the real estate campaign, from the mortgage and realty side, we'll have the mortgage finance application and the co-marketing partner request. More details on that later. On the leaders are born. We also have the director leadership activations, um, which then proceeds towards the medical pod campaign, the real estate campaign, and day school or after school campaign. Again, more details on that later because we're going to dive more into that. So the UEF and Kid Enlightenment have the same routes or the same flow, where the jot forms will lead to school activations or webinar registrations, which is catered more towards m- more will be discussed as we go on, because it's more detailed on the respective pods. So the school activations, that's where the day school or after school campaign. An example of what we're having right now is we have the PS57, which is an after school campaign, which is from the Labco initiative. Um, okay, yeah. So everything kind of leads to seminars or webinars and virtual space for events, which then leads to active recruitment. Any questions? All right, I'll take that as no questions. All right, so let's continue.
No, no, no. Wait, hold on. We
Okay.
don't move to another page until we get at least two confirmations from audience, whether verbal or audible or thumbs up. One, Alex, call me.
Two.
Dope.
All right. All right, let's
Quintao,
go.
trust you're here. There we go. Three. Perfect.
All right, let's go. I know I'm going fast because we're trying to like be on track with the schedule. So, right, let's go. So this one is the care of the recruitment pod. Palmy, this is yours.
Yep.
Um, okay. So from the LabCo initiative and the social media campaign, and also from the back end. So if we all remember correctly, it's from the referrals and the handshake, right? So when they fill up those handshake referrals, I mean that handshake application and those referrals from other professionals, then we know that they're interested in activating LabCo initiatives, which then they get added to the LabCo directory of professionals, and then they could join the webinar or virtual space for events to see on kind of like what um get a feel of what LabCo is offering or like what LabCo is about. So they still have that paywall, but still sponsorable when they go on like when they go on like our meeting because um when they come from handshake or from a referral, there's always an interview portion and like getting to know them, which then you could introduce that oh yeah, we do webinars and stuff like that, and you also have your unique code to like share to them so that their first webinar is actually free, but
So
not
wait,
technically free.
I'll jump in real quick to
Yep.
kind of clear it up a little bit, right?
Yep.
So the when you're looking at these workflows, the pods are separate. You're gonna see the pods are in that red, and then the outside of the pod is separate, right? So the pod responsibility is just what's happening in that red. What's happening outside of that pod is what's driving what's the fuel for what happens inside that pod. So the webinars by itself, they're outside of every pod, and that's where that paywall is from the very beginning when people come in. That's the first entry people get. They get our either our social media or they got referred to us to come to a webinar. When they go to register for that webinar, they have their free option and they have their paywall option. And that's where every time they come back to it, they'll know where they lie based on what they want to get accomplished moving forward now, wherever those webinars are directed. Does that make sense?
Yep.
One more from Alex and then continue.
So you said that they are inside of the red box, which is
Yeah,
inside.
yeah. You'll see it when we get to your pod, but
Okay.
just be mindful that the colors matter, right?
Yep.
So and the boxes matter. So the way that you gotta kind of look at this like from an engineering point of view, right? And or you look at it from an architectural point of view, where you're looking at it from like you're looking at the building blocks of a location, right? There's a certain part of this property that is dedicated to just that, and there's someone that's managing just that part of the property. So the boxes that are blocked off, everything in those blocks are pretty much property that someone individually could manage, but one, you understand what I'm saying now? Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. And what's happening outside is what's driving people to that particular property,
Yep.
right? So to clear that all up, pretend your pod is like a classroom, and everything outside of the pod is to get people to the doors of your classroom. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, that makes
Perfect.
sense. Yep.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, cool. Continue.
Okay, so to add to that, the back end is us, like every single one of us. So this is like expected, I guess, for like all of us. Hence that explanation. But the box up top where it says the care of recruitment pod, that is like a role specific to you, to be exact. So for this one, the lab co-directory professionals and all of that from the back end, that's for all of us. But the box up top is for the care of the recruitment pod. Okay. So from the social media campaign, um, we are expected to get hits from the realtors that have interest in the industry breakthrough, and students who are interested in lab internships, interest in real estate professionals, in becoming a real estate professional, and interest in becoming a lab program instructor. And we also have industry professionals who are interested in becoming a lab program instructor and an interest in becoming a real estate professional. So when they show interest, we could show them the webinar or in the virtual space for events, invite them to that. And after that seminar, we could
Wait, hold on,
send
hold on, hold on. So it doesn't. So
yeah,
remember, that's coming in from the social media. So
yeah,
what's happening outside of this, aside from the back end, it's not in your control.
yeah,
You're just accessing the data from that to now follow up properly,
yeah.
right? It's really your lead. It's what's giving you leads.
Yeah. It's
Go
passive
ahead.
leads, is not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So these realtors, students, and industry professionals, they see the posts that we have on our social media, which comes from LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. So they actually fill up a jot form which confirms their interest in the industry breakthrough, lab internship, real estate professional, etc. So they then join the webinar and the virtual space for events, which then afterwards we could then verify their interest in the membership, which then would sync towards the care of the recruitment pod, which is we offer or we talk with them on what they're interested in being. Tier one being front end, being in those after school events. So being a brand ambassador, which means they're gonna be going to like those events, for example, the PS57, being a media and experience support, or being a read along instructor. Tier two is back end or administrative tasks. So the instructor offering and the internship offering having like a mix between tier one and tier two because for example us we're interns, so we have the opportunity to actually go to the front end if really needed or if we want to, but we're also doing the back end stuff or the administrative stuff. So next, so the chapter offering is exclusively tier two. And if I remember correctly, Neville, chapter offering is like um the reiteration or the reapplication of this organizational flowchart so that they could have their own business or their own chapter pattern after this. Correct?
They can have their right. They can have their own chapter. So that's why I showed you guys on the screen before the junior director, chapter director, and then levels the chapter director before it's senior director. And what that flow looks like, it's because it's built off of what you would need to excel in any company to get to that CEO level, right? There first has to be a level of understanding that you have of the baseline field, which is the junior director. There's the chapter director that now understands how to manage a few junior directors, right? You have a team of people that you're helping do things, getting the goal accomplished. The second, and then there's different levels of the chapter director just because there's different levels of management that they can have. So like your junior director, as a junior director, like, okay, so Alex, right, your first year pod director, right, your first year intern, right, so we're only going to give you one, maybe two campaigns to manage, right? We're not going to give you six or seven. We're going to give you one, maybe two. So Vince, as your chapter director, has to help you manage those 1 or 2 campaigns that you have. Does that make sense to everybody?
That makes sense.
Perfect.
Yeah.
This is what, and the reason your roles change week to week, and you hold 2 roles when you're a producer, is because that's double edged on that one. But the core reason is so you guys understand each department within an organization and how to support it and what perspective to come from that aspect. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. So go ahead, continue then.
Okay. So the mentorship offering, that is, I think that is Zero and Lewis's early level.
So yeah, the mentorship offering, that's gonna be our directory of professionals. Those are the ones that are able to now come in as lab members and activate either on instruction or run a chapter. Does that make sense? So, yeah, perfect. Because the mentorship offering, like I said before, and I want to make sure I really, really clear that up. Mentorship here isn't just you showed up to a classroom for 15 minutes virtually and spoke to some kids, and then that was you were a mentor. Like a mentor is someone that's going to be there day to day or week to week or month to month, accessible for help for whatever reason, or just guidance, or just there, just be there, right? To for whatever is needed for whether that's professional or personal. So the ones that we bring in from that mentorship offering, those are the ones that have dedicated the either a semester or a program. And our programs extend 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, right? And they have to sponsor, support that program to ensure that they're available to help the students, i.e., you guys, that are now running that program, that are now advocating for that program. So they have to be available at least 2 to 5 hours per week to help you do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can book time with them the same way you've been practicing booking it with me. So you can book time with them to get things done. You see what I'm saying? Like all of what I've been showing you guys is to prepare you for approaching the market, approaching your industry market with such confidence that it's going to astound people at how prepared you are to help them do better.
Yeah.
And that sponsorship offering takes it now to that next step above and beyond, where we can talk about that one later because we get back into the webinars. But go ahead, Vince.
Yeah. So sponsorship is basically a company that we're gonna be working with. Companies we're gonna have like collaborative works with. So these tiers comprise the lab code directory of professionals, or they are part of the lab code directory of professionals. Does that make sense? It all circles back to the lab code directory of professionals. I see one.
Say it again, Vince.
So these people, or these tiers, they also comprise the lab code directory of professionals. Like when they activate, or when they become part of lab as a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, they also become part of our lab code directory of professionals, which then they could join the webinars and virtual space for events. Understand?
He put some thumbs up. He got it.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yep. That was a lot. I think he really understood that. Okay, next. So the education pod. So the education pod, this is patterned after our current initiative at PS57, and for the other initiatives that we have for um we have for lab. So just to start off, we also still have the social media campaign that fuels that. So the social media campaign is going to attract students, parents, staff, and professionals. And from the back end as well, the verified interest in education pod, and those professionals then can join the webinars through a paywall, which is also sponsorable. So from that, the LabCo initiative creates the Day School After School campaign, which is in contracts with schools. So each school has a different activation point. So whether elementary, middle school, high school, or university, each one is separate from the other. Each contract is separate from the other. Um, they have different activation points, which then the principal or the program directives then confirms the attendees and like on what they would want to do. So um they would choose which program that they're going to activate in that specific school, which then corresponds to us having that active recruitment on the visual side to see on what they would need. So for example, in PS57, they would need a read along staff, the media and experience support staff, and in the other school we also have a field trip coming up, so we would need like a chaperone to the kids, and also for the VR one day event. So this is like a these are who you call the brand ambassadors. So these are the front end. So altogether, we have the seminar sessions and in-person activations, which comes from the contract, and then us like providing those support or those brand ambassadors that are going to be on the front end, um, which then leads to program execution. Um, so there's also an incentive that Neville has established where when kids attend school, the attendance and everything, the parents get credit, and then the parents can then use those credits to join a professional workshop of their interest. So which then they could use to join the seminars or sessions and in-person activations that are according to like what they would want to do. So um when after they join the workshop, maybe they would want to like have a certain niche that they would want to join as well, or like they would want to like host or teach to their fellow parents or whatever, which then they could lead to the active recruitment, which we could then like have them be part of the front end staff or the brand ambassadors or something else. And then they could also join the webinars where they could get like a certification or add something to it for their continuing professional development. Does that make sense? I see too.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody said yes, but I'm going to say it again just so I can recap it. Um, the parents, when the parents that get access to the okay, let me rephrase that. So the kids, when they do when they come to school, it's not just the programming, lab programming. When they come to school in general, right? We want to leverage lab as a program that helps bring student, like it helps support attendance, and starting with the K school, K through 5, and moving into the high school and so forth and so on, the mindset has to be on who's responsible, right? So from K through 5, the responsibility of attendance is the parents, not the children, right? So we have to approach them and entice them to ensure they're seeing purpose and reason to more than just, their kids are going to learn, right? Because just their kids are going to learn isn't enough to get them to get their kids there. Does that make sense to everybody so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. That's a pain point that the schools have, attendance right now. So I'm looking to help position lab to help address that, not by bribing the kids with this, that, and the third. Like, there's incentives for them to do things and get things, but you have to not just throw a band-aid over a sore. We have to treat it and heal it, right? So it becomes like you're stronger, you're better. Physical therapy, like, work on what the problem is, not the whatever, right? So it with this incentive, we extend the webinars and the seminars and the professional workshops to the parents of the kids that get programming at the school, right? That introduction, by getting them into the open house spaces from that 10:30 to that 10 to 10:30 and 4 to 4:30, right? Pal maybe got that covered, right? And we'll talk about that again in a moment. And getting at the webinars themselves, because the webinars are outside of the pods because they're going to help direct people to the pods. So everything is to help bring them to where they want to go. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Perfect. I will go ahead, continue.
Okay. So, all right. So that's the education pod. The education pod just takes care of what's in the box. Well, that's a role specific to the person taking care of the education pod. So that's, I believe, Alex. If I'm correct. Yeah. Okay. So next is the real estate pod. So the real estate pod is the care of Kung Tao. Um, Once again, I'm going to start from outside the box. So, the social media campaign is going to attract the realtors. And then these realtors will have leads because um, it's a word of mouth type thing. So they're gonna invite others from other leads from these realtors and then get them to the webinars. Also from students, industry professionals, and the realtors interested in earning double. So that verifies their interest and leads, which then leads to the webinars and the virtual space for events. Same as for the back end, the interest in the real estate pod. So um, that gets them to like the access to the seminars and the webinars as well through a paywall. So what those verified interests leads to is that it then leads to the real estate campaign or the leadership campaign. Um, so each one is a different thing. So the real estate campaign has the mortgage financing application and the co-marketing partner activation. So the mortgage financing is where um they would be looking for a mortgage or like the activation of that financing that they would want. And then the co-marketing partner activation is basically partnering with Neville towards that.
So
Or yeah,
I'll double in on that real quick.
yeah.
So the Kung Tao, this is your role. This is your realm, right? So and I know we spoke about this, so the follow is going to be clear, right? When they come in from real estate campaign or leadership campaign, it really is just about the application and what they fill out on the application. From the real estate campaign, remember it's a jot form. So that mortgage application, it's the jot form. It's the real estate jot form, the mortgage jot form, right? And on that, there's only two options. There's either it's a potential. You know what? Let me rather than do that. Let me show. Start it. Sorry, I'm the one slowing things up right now. Okay, it's this form. You guys are seeing this my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, this form here, the invite code, obviously, they'll put the invite code from the social media. If they don't have an invite code, they come here. These are their options. They're either a potential borrower or a client, potential realtor partner, potential professional services partner, right? Which means not a realtor, just someone else, right? Does something else. As a potential borrower, let's start here. As a professional service, they have to just put their title, like what they are, and then they have only these three options: learn more, get approval, or get loan estimate. As a professional service partner or a realtor partner, if they click get approval or get a loan estimate, they only see what a loan estimate does. They only see what a get approval does, but they can't move forward. They can't do anything other than that. Does that make sense so far? They can only click learn more if they're a realtor partner or a professional service partner. They only get directed to learn more. Does that make sense?
Yo.
I'm getting thumbs up. Yes,
Yep.
perfect. Perfect. So from there now, they have the opportunity to they get a quick read on what the webinar, what the opportunity is, right? Because this right here is their invite to the webinar series. Because when they click webinar seminar, the email that they get gives them the link to the webinar registration form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Perfect. So when they click, and then they can just click, fill out whatever information from here. Here they're able to websites. Would you like access to the, okay, yeah, there's something that has to be filled out first, right? When they select here, it's any one of the workshops that are being offered. This is what I'm giving them access to, right? Any one of these that they choose, this is what Vince was talking about before, there's an opportunity for a newsletter that gets activated with that. I'll go into that when I go into deeper into the webinars, but then, keep it very simple, fill out their information, regardless of, there's nothing else, just fill out their information. And then if they select one of these that they want to attend, they like information or they like an invite to a webinar, then you give them the chance to schedule to get custom space for that webinar. Not at this time, they can just go ahead and subscribe just the seat. It brings them to the same thing from the webinar registration, just brought down a bit, where it's now only the seat that they can get, and then they see members only from the small office, from the premium, so they understand that there's a paywall behind the experience that they're gonna have, but they don't have to pay for it, and there's no way for them to enter any kind of member ID for them to even click on these and it go through. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. So the invite code will still work here if it's your invite code, because it'll still work here. So if someone registers, you have a discovery call and it's a realtor and they come in this platform, they can still use your invite code and it work to get that 100% off.
Yep.
Just on this one. But these are the only options here. Vice versa, you saw this on this one. These are the options. This is the registration. This is the webinar registration form. Does that make sense?
That
Cool.
makes sense.
All right, cool. Go back. I'll let you go back.
All right. So we have, yeah.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I just realized something.
Yeah, the MLO.
Yeah,
No,
the
yeah.
whole. Let me just, can you go back and share this? Hey. Apologies, guys. Apologies.
All good.
All right, here. This was it. So when you click on when they click on co-marketing, this is what they see. So that co-marketing option, it splits two ways. One, it splits, and this is where it gets into the legalities of things. So I kind of want you guys to understand what I'm saying. Don't get complicated on it. But just, and I don't want to overcomplicate it by prefacing it in this way, but I need you to understand there needs to be a compliance split so things stay legal, right? I myself, as a loan officer, cannot get paid or pay a realtor to do anything, right? There has to be separation. Like I can't give them, I can't give them money because they gave me a lead. You see what I'm saying? We can't give back to back forth. We can't give commissions
You're
back and forth to
you're
each
cutting
other.
out a little bit.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. The I said we cannot give commissions to each other, right? So I'm not trying to give realtors commissions. What I did do was separate my company where it offers marketing services. So I'm able to now extend marketing services to realtors, exclusive marketing services to realtors and other industry professionals through Lab. Does that make sense, everybody, so far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this entering into the schools, this entering into the hospitals, like these campaigns and the way that they're structured is an exclusive marketing campaign to Lab. The way that will be
Cutting out again.
the session recorded, then that session. Sorry, maybe I'll stop sharing. Um, Clear it up. So we have the sessions that are recorded. We then give them the act. We get we market for them. We do marketing for them, right? Those things are exclusive to Lab. So it should be something that Lab that they pay for that we're not just giving away for free. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Perfect. So they have to know where that line draws, where that separation comes from. So the partnership, the co-marketing with me now, that's with US Mortgage, that's with the mortgage. There's certain, and Alex, you'll know a bit more about what I'm talking about here, and Palmi, Kung Tao, you'll learn more about this. There's verbiage and client compliance disclosures that have to be on any marketing material that goes out, right? Because so we have to be very strategic in terms of how we offer things, how we extend things, how we combine things, and how we then, release things. So the reason that it's broken down the way it's broken down to are so that separation stays clear, that where I'm right now in just the face of it, but let's take me as a loan officer. Let's take me as a loan officer out of it and just put me as the founder. I could put any loan officer in that chair at any hospital. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. So what I've done was, from a team building standpoint, is that I've put myself there first to show what the co-marketing can look like. But my goal is to put my team in those hospitals, my team in those schools. So it can be their team and their network of realtors and attorneys and whoever it is that they connect with, but wherever that is, but I'm giving them a solid platform to build from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I'll stop sharing and let you go back.
Because
Okay,
Lab
now I
does the
answered it.
marketing. Because
Because
Lab
Lab
does the
does the
marketing,
market.
right? Yeah. Okay. Right. So, any questions on the real estate pod?
Oh, I guess the last thing I should mention is the leadership campaign that goes
Oh
to
yeah.
the MLO and AMLO. So that particular application, that's them just saying that they're interested in becoming an AMLO or a MLO, right? And that we get that interest from the moment that um, they, they from the seminar or webinar that they come to, the email that they get afterwards. Ask them, again, has that survey on it and all the same thing. They click a checkbox, they're interested, they want to learn more about it. We then direct them directly to HR at US Mortgage and let them start the process there. And then our webinars and our consistent support is supposed to help them go through that process. But we don't need to do anything other than get them there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes
Cool,
sense.
cool. I really want you guys to understand lab is a bridge for gaps. We're not here to try to, I mean, there's certain things that I want to make sure that you guys learn from us and are staple to us, right? But as an industry and career growth, my goal is for, and I'll show you this, guys, in a moment. My goal is for you guys to, stick with these things and grow through your career and use them through your career, right? But to be just like any, club or organization that you join, when you're younger or you're older, like I want it to be that back end support for you guys. That's what I want lab to service as. So you always have that back end where there's you've put time and effort into building your network and understanding your process, so it becomes now second nature for you to be able to manage things at a scale, because all you have to do is direct people to something you already have working where they get to go through a process. Does that make sense? To get to whatever goal you're trying to accomplish. Okay, cool.
Yep.
I'll let you continue. I think that explains them all.
Okay. All right. So last but not least, this is the medical pod. This is under my care. Um, so same as with the other pods, we're gonna have a funnel from the social media campaign that is catered towards or is catered from the hospital administrators, healthcare professionals, nurse programs, physician programs, realtors, etc., which is then gonna funnel towards the seminars and the webinars. And also from the back end, those interested in the medical pod or like being in the similar space as those doctors and everything.
So wait,
Um,
take that right there and just kind of put a highlight on that, an asterisk with a highlight, because that point of being in the same space, that's what remember this is networking, right?
Yep.
What you're looking at right now, this chart, this is networking. This is how everything connects, right? The people that are right there, that social media campaign, the goal of these webinars and seminars is to connect these people. The information that they're going to get is going to be great because it's enticing to get them there, and some need it, some don't, some want it, some great, right? But the point is to get them there and get them connected with each other. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
Perfect.
yes. So those professionals are essentially paying to like meet those doctors, those nurses, because they would want them to like add to their client list. So that's what they're paying for. And when they do get those connections, what do you think they're gonna do next? I'm gonna answer it. They're gonna want more. They're gonna they're gonna activate more, which is then they're gonna pay more to be in those webinars. So the medical campaign is not just like reaching out to these doctors, but um in my care, I am gonna be reaching out to hospitals and see if like their residents or their HR are interested in these types of seminars. And also I'll also be reaching out to um potential nurses and doctors and see if they have interest, which then they could push for a directive from their HR to like have these seminars as well. So it's like a multi-pronged approach. So
Just so you can add to that, so and Vince's conversations help fuel your conversations and as well, Alex. And Palmy, again, everything funnels back to you because you're the ultimate lab HQ. But the when Vince is talking to the residents and the HR directors to get programming there, there's two things that we're coming in as, because our approach into the hospital isn't from a real estate forward, it's from an education forward, right? So we're showcasing that these are education programs that we provide in the local schools, and we're bringing that seminar, that experience to them so they can learn more about home financing, so forth and so on, right? We're bringing that classroom experience to them, so to speak. And in doing that, that's where they then now get the opportunity to see their options, where this goes back to again they get to see their options where they can they can continue, they can do a mortgage application if they're interested in any kind of financing, right? Or they can, as a doctor, as a nurse, they can go back to one of our schools and activate as a guest mentor, as the career day. We can get them to come back to the schools as well, and that just helps again fuel our programming. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. Continue.
Okay. So, as with everything else, we have those seminars, so we would still need the media and experience support staff, which is then the active recruitment for those brand ambassadors. Um, does anyone have questions regarding the medical pod?
One thing I will say about the medical pod, that the medical pod is the medical pod and the education pod are the ones that have more in-person capabilities, right? It's going to happen either as a webinar or at the school. It's going to be either a webinar or at the hospital, right? Um, just want to clarify that. So, like on a hospital event, the same thing that happens at the school, again, pending we're in the classroom and we have the opportunity, but the hospital event, especially from the media support side, it's being live streamed and then streamed in the frame at the same way we do our discovery calls, the same way we do our conferences, where we're able to then now, because those that we send that invite out to everyone available and everyone at the hospital, and those that can attend virtually um can attend virtually, and they either have access to come into the frame, which is only going to have a limited amount of seats, or they just watch it from the YouTube that's being live streamed. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yep.
Cool.
Okay. Um. Okay. So that basically ends the flow chart. Does anyone have any questions before we proceed to our next agenda? Which is damn, like we went over 30 minutes our intended time, but that was a hefty topic. So
That it was.
that it was. Okay. If there are no more questions, can I get a thumbs up if everyone is on the same page?
You got it, dude.
Okay. Very good. All right. Um let's proceed to the webinar flow. Care of Neville. um
All right.
yeah,
Awesome.
do you think we're gonna be able to like combine the webinar flow as well as the mock webinar? Neville?
Um, the mock webinar, I think, yes, yes, I think we can do. We just kind of run through. I'll shorten the time of the run a show for the mock webinar
Okay.
so we can go through. But just so you guys can see what's what, right? So let me share. All right. You guys see my screen over here, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, cool. So the webinar set, right? It's based on okay. All right, there's a couple things we're going to dive into to kind of make this clear, right? So the webinar, the social media campaign, like Vince said, is the 16-week campaign that each one of the brand verticals. And embedded in that, there's an additional 12-week campaign that is direct to the webinars, right? So in that 16-week social campaign, each one of the verticals has something that relates back or refers back or invites back or relates to in some way the webinar theme or topic for that particular week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So our social posts are going to be very targeted to the webinar topics. The goal here is to ensure that our speakers and that our speakers and our panel that are at our webinars are supported by having two things. One, well advanced time to be able to schedule it, meaning, we should be, the webinars are happening, we're, today's the first day, right? We have two that have to happen every week. And we have to be able to put out social media, and Alex will be, spearheading a lot of this. We have to put out social media, not just great social media, but great timing social media. So a speaker that we have scheduled for April 21st, this should be their their post, or a post about them speaking and the topic they're speaking on, so forth and so on, should be put out this week. This way, there's enough time for it to go out to the general, but we give them time to share it with their network, because we're not just going to post it once, right? We're going to post it several times. So we keep reminding people about it, give them a chance to actually remind their network about it, which, because our whole point is to engage and optimize attendance. Does that make sense? Cool. So with attendance, right? Why our metrics are set up and why our things are set up the way that they're set up is because we want to optimize the opportunity, right? We want to show that look at where the space that we're in right now. Look at the space that the theater is, right? There's a 50-person cap. So look at that from a reality real estate standpoint, right? There's a capacity, there's a room capacity. We can't have any more people, right? So our goal every week is for each one of our webinars to be packed where there's no more room for people to come in. And anyone that wants to now come in is just either watching it from the live stream, or or they have access to that Google Meet link where they're now watching it from there. Does that make sense? Perfect. Perfect. So that said, to keep things, not overwhelming, because again, it is a lot, but I'll give a little bit more of a breakdown, kind of see where things broken down strategically. You're only going, each of you are gonna have access to certain things. Like, I'm gonna share some email with each of you, and a main one with each of you, right? Because that has a library of documents, right? That library of documents, each of you should be familiar with what's in there. But like I said about different floors and different doors, the documents are really only going to pertain to certain of you at specific points in time during your role assignments. Does that make sense? Perfect. So the goal of you rotating those role assignments, again, I reiterate, the producer plays two roles every week. So whoever is the producer, that's a two. They pick up two roles for that week, and those are the responsibilities that they have to adhere to, right? The the goal there is to ensure that, again, things are learned properly, but the producer really understands the severity of running the show, right? You have to be able to do your job, someone else's job, as well as look at everyone else and what they're doing and make sure all of that's happening properly while the audience and your guest, your featured guests, your sponsors see anything that ever went wrong. Does that make sense? You could have had 6 fires happen in a room down the hall. No one smelled the smoke. Does that make sense? Perfect. So I'm giving you access to these documents so you can then see them in their entirety, but you're only going to have access, just like access to your Slack, based on your role, based on certain permissions. So you'll have view access to things, but you'll access to certain tabs on spreadsheets. You're gonna have, each of you are going to have individual specific access and view access and edit access, to ensure that it doesn't get confusing, convoluted, or wrong because there's chefs in the kitchen. Does that make sense? Cool. Perfect. Perfect. The webinars themselves, the format for the webinar, it's really, 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 really extremely super simple. And Alex, I started a draft to respond to you. The run of show that you sent, that you're gonna send for Ryan, that's phenomenal. The one you did for Greg, phenomenal. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Clean, simple, and they can fill in the blanks because they have their curriculum, right? So if you want to give an additional layer to that, Alex, in that run of show, add the hyperlink to the PDF of that curriculum. So it's an easy link for the instructor to just click in and see what they're supposed to be covering that particular date and time based on the schedule that they're in. Does that make sense?
That would be great. Yeah, I agree.
Right, because then anyone coming in that's subbing, if they know that they're picking up the 6th session, they just click on that run of show and they're able to see what session 6 consists of. Make sense? Again, my goal here is to ensure that I listen to and identify all of the pain points of the partners and organizations that I work with and fix it. Does that make sense? Cool. And you're going to hear me say, does that make sense, a lot, because that's my practice to just get confirmation that people are grasping what I'm saying before I move on, because it's a lot of information and I just want to get and know that we got it before I go forward. So in getting that access, each week, I'm sorry, this is what goes back into the scheduling, right? So it's going to be given to you guys in phases, right? Like, so you guys get phase 1, which is weeks 1 through 3. Phase 2 is going to be weeks 4 through 6, so forth and so on, right? And I'm giving them to you with that 2-week benchmark so we can do exactly what Vince said. And again, Alex, this is where you're going to come in, a lot, and helping organize the media to make sure that this happens. The content is set up for the post, and for the first week, up until I believe the 10th, I've put templates. I put pictures, but the content from our post are supposed to come from the content that we produce, right? Not just AI generated images. We can throw a few of those in there to add fillers along the way, but for the most part, majority of our posts should lie within the content that we create. It keeps things more engaging, it keeps things more real, it keeps us more real, and it allows for, again, just more integrity behind what it is we're offering. Does that make sense? Cool. And that said, Alex, when you have access, Zero will give you access to some backend, or not backend, but like, other storages where we have tons of media, tons of content, right?
On
At
Slack.
any point in at any point in time, we can organize that content and distribute that content as very valid content because it's content that we did, right? It doesn't have to be from this week, this year that we post what we done. Does that make sense? Perfect, perfect. So, being able, so the webinars themselves, again, these documents are going to be shared with you guys so you can see kind of top line of where the topic points are, so you have better approach when you're doing your discovery calls, better approach when you're managing the Slack channels, communications that are coming in from it, when you're managing your own conversations of what's upcoming in the next few weeks, right? When you're helping schedule people out, as you're speaking to people, right, that on the 23rd, we're going to be talking about real estate market trends. And, tomorrow you talk to someone that is like, yeah, I actually write an article about real estate market trends. Boom, keyword triggered. Hey, we have a webinar coming up. Would you like to speak about that? Yeah, sure. Great. Okay. It's this date, this time, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody? Perfect. Now, this date, this time, that's the imperative part, right? So the campaign was designed based on the ideal touch points of or engagement points for each of the brand verticals, target audience, right? So 8 a.m., 6 p.m., 8 to 8:30, 8:30 to 9, right? We have 2 hours every that you guys, because again, what is the lab internship? Collaboration, cooperation towards a goal, right? Learning how to do that at different stages, different levels, different responsibilities, so forth, so on. 2 hours a week, the four of you, with addition to 560 plus anyone else that we have coming in, right? This is your pod. This is your chapter. This is your intern class, right? 2 hours a week, all of us are supposed to be together just like this. We have to find 2 hours a week where back to back 30-minute sessions, we're able to now run that run of show where all of us are here. So the support of moderator, host, producer, follow up, speaker wrangler, all of those are here and are able to help make sure that our audience and our guests, speakers, whatever, sponsors have the absolute best experience. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. In order to provide that phenomenal experience, there's one thing each of us have to do. Can anybody tell me what that is? I'll give you a hint. There's one thing each of us have to do at the same time.
Be present.
Thank you. Show up. That's it. Because if you're present at the current stage you're in, we much rather you be present and ask what to do than not be present and what needs to be done has to get picked up by someone that either is not equipped to do it or has too much to do or shouldn't do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So scheduling your time for these webinars is imperative. It is just as imperative as me approving your hours every week in SOAR, right? And in place, right? Because those 2 hours every week are showcasing that you're actually doing what the internship is here for. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect.
Question.
So
Mhm.
that time, right? I'm willing to open up. Now, these were the best times, right? But again, I understand schedules are different, schedules are flexible, schedules fluctuate, so forth and so on. So, my bigger concern is to ensure that at bare minimum, these 2 hours are done every week but at the barest minimum, there's some layer of consistency, at least from a 2 to 3 week in advance standpoint, so we can have a positive social experience with whoever we're scheduling. So because we need to create the content for them. Like you guys have each done mock discovery call sets up or discovery call setups, right? You know what it takes to create that run of show every day for just for documenting your own stuff, and you know what it takes to create the run of show for a discovery call. You know everything you have to look at about that person, create the graphics, so forth and so on. These are things that have to be created for that particular speaker for that particular post, right? The post has to be edited with, either their name, like a certain, talking point, certain special invite code we want to add, little things. I've tried to put everything as streamlined as possible where all these invite codes and things are already there. So it really is just a matter of plug and play the images, the dates, times, it's really just the images, the dates, and the times, right? And the posts are going to be set up between for the first 2 weeks. I think again until the 10th, it's only a mix of feed posts and stories. I don't have carousels. I don't have reels, but I do have in the weeks 3 through 4. In weeks 4 through 6, I believe, those are now embedded in the content. But again, those images are left blank with just image suggestion captions. So we can now fill those images with content, with our own content, whether it be content we've done years ago or content we did 2 minutes ago. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Neville, I think Alex
Cool.
had a question.
Alex, shoot.
Yeah, I had a question. I had a question about the 2 hours. Are they like 1 hour today, 1 hour the next day, or 2 hours on one day?
So that's what I need us to come together and get a good grasp on. So I'll use Palmian as example, right? Her Monday and Tuesday out of the question, right? She's booked. I'm trying to get her and Vince at the same time every week, right? Consistency, right? So the time that Palmi Wednesday, she can do the open house, which is the 10 a.m. to 10:30 and the 4 p.m. to 4:30, right? What that means, she's just here in the space to be there when any parents or educators come in, connect with lab about programming, right? So that webinar that has to happen about lab programming kind of already happens in the open house because the webinar, the information about lab programming is already in the theater. So it really is just a matter of pointing to the PDF or the website or whatever it is for that person to get the answers to the questions they're looking for. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Wednesday she's available. Friday she's available. She said Thursday possible, right? And I believe the Vince you said was what was it? Thursday or Friday?
Thursday and Friday and Monday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Monday, Thursday, Friday, right? So Monday, Thursday, Friday. So to answer your question, Alex, all 4 of you have to figure out 2 hours every week that all 4 of you are going to be available for those 2 hours, right? And it doesn't have, it is 2 hours it's 1 hour one day and 1 hour another day, and not back to back days. I prefer not back to back days, but it is what it is when it comes to scheduling. I much prefer that these webinars are put out, but with that in mind, and I can say this to you, you'll understand where I'm coming from with it, especially because you're going to be spearheading the social side of it, right? That having that schedule flatline, or if not flatline, having that schedule flat allows us to now really make it easy for scheduling whoever it is coming forward, because based on we can now tell them when we're available, and they'll just select whatever week within the next coming weeks they can fit that time and table. Because if we keep moving things around, it's going to be difficult for us to one keep our social consistent, because we have to change a lot of things, which I opened up things so we can make those changes if needed, but it also makes it difficult for us to get a solid following because there's no consistency to when we're offering our offer. Does that make sense? It's consistent, it happens every week, but nobody knows when. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this week is going to be us really knowing what that schedule looks like. So, and I showed Palmy, so then I can put on the form, because I have two options on the form, right? I can either attach a Calendly that is ideal, because then they'll just select the date and time and register that way, and then they'll get their email confirmation. We'll get confirmation, and registration links and all sorts of great things happen, right? And the calendar is automatically set up. Or I can have it where I have the times and dates that are there, and I only give like a 2 week, maybe 3 week, just like as the phases are. I only give the option on the form the way that they are shown right here, where I'm only showing this information right here, this information, this information, this information, this information, and giving them the chance to just select the date and time that works for them. So do we have something that we can do consistently, or do I need to put the dates and times 3 week phase by phase like this?
I think consistently would be better with the calendar if we can find time.
This is a team effort, so please, everyone, chime in. And don't feel pressured in any way. Everybody has their schedule and has their priorities, right? Something I'll shout out real quick and make sure everybody is doing it. I think everybody's doing it, but let me not assume. When you are looking to change your availability on Calendly, when you want to block off time, you don't need to change your times. You don't need to change your availability. You don't need to make any edits in Calendly. If you've connected your Calendly properly if you sync to your lab email, the only thing you need to do is update your lab email calendar. Just block off the times that you're unavailable, and it'll automatically block those times off in your Calendly link. Does everybody get?
Yeah. I wonder who did that.
I wonder who. So to make it another layer of ease, right? You have your school calendar, and you have your school email, which has its own calendar, and you have your personal email, right, which has its own calendar, right? So a great layer of is share those calendars with your lab email, and you don't have to share what the content is in the calendar. All it is sharing the time, right? So if your personal calendar has something blocked off, if your school calendar has something blocked off, it automatically blocks that off on your lab calendar, which automatically blocks that off on your calendar. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Everybody? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Cool. All right. And then, I mean, that's pretty much it from the webinar breakdown. In terms of the mock webinar, what that looks like. Vince, pull up the webinar runner show.
Sure. This is it, right? On the right side of the screen.
Yep. All right, everyone can see this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So, um, the webinar, the seminar, from a real estate standpoint, what I want you guys to understand, right? Or just from a reality versus virtual, right? So the webinars, the reason I'm such a huge advocate of keeping these things in the frame and doing it in this way is because it gives a real world metric to a virtual space, to a virtual experience, right? I can have a capacity on a room, which means it can have 50 people in a room, 8 people in a room, 100 people in a room, right? Those metrics are the same if I was to have a space in a real place and I had, a room that was 50 people, and every week I consistently pack that room out with 50 people. Does that make sense? From a value standpoint, from a sponsor standpoint, from an investment standpoint, from a business standpoint, your goal is to fill up your space consistently. Does that make sense? Cool. So to do that, to fill up our spaces and to give you guys a better understanding on what event management and event coordination look, I've put a bunch of things together, all wrapped up and layered in one cohesive experience where you, much like, and I think I've given each of you like the analogy, or at least the does everybody know about solitaire in the Hall of Fame as a computer game? Does anyone know about it?
It's with Mac, is it not?
No? Okay. All right. So I'll tell you a little trivia, right? So solitaire for the computer is in the Hall of Fame not because it's the greatest game ever, it's because 99% of people that played it, that use it, that did it, have no idea what its real purpose was for. And that was to help people learn to use the mouse. Drag, click, drag, click, drag, click, double click, move back, drag, click. Like that's what the purpose was. So millions upon millions, generations of people have played that, not knowing they were learning something deeper behind the scenes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's how lab is positioned, where the experiences are quick, but they're impactful. And until you get to certain levels of understanding, i.e., certain levels of experience, you're not going to be able to recognize the things that happened right in front of you while you were there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And Vince can speak to this because there are things he's understanding now he saw before, but he's understanding now because he has a different lens to look at the exact same thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
Does
what
make
I'm showing you guys to do as a collective is to have different lenses, but an overarching view of time, of coordinated time. Because ultimately, every day, no matter what you guys need to do, what job you have to work with other people and get something done within a deadline. You have to deliver something or accept something one way, shape, or form and provide it to somebody else in order for you to get paid. Yes or no? Yes? No?
Mhm.
That should be everybody,
Yep.
right? So to this run of show is to help you do that, just like the daily run of show is for you to guys practice writing, practice keeping track of your time and keeping track of what you do, right? Because you don't get credit for what you don't show you've done, right? Everything here is to be your proof of concept. Everything here is supposed to be your proof of work, So there's not only a timestamp validation that you've done it, content that you've done it, but you can revert back to that experience and you can refer someone else to that experience for them to learn from it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Helps make a shortcut for somebody else now coming in after you, because the goal as you grow through lab is to bring other people in after you, help other people after you, and the only thing that you're required to help other people with is exactly what you've completed yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Vince doesn't ask any of you, and I don't ask any of you to do anything that Vince hasn't done or I haven't done myself. And if it's something that's directly pertaining to your industry, I connect you with a mentor that's in that industry, that is that profession, that has done that thing 1,000 times over before they're going to tell you how to do it right. Does that make sense? Let alone evaluate you to tell you you're doing it wrong. Because the thing that you guys have that most professionals don't, and I want you guys to really hold on to this, you're still in school, you have the opportunity, you're in an internship, you're getting credits for studying. Learn everything you can. Learn these programs inside and out. Learn the programs that run your industry inside and out, because then nobody can stop you. Week-to-week basis, the reason the industry spotlights change up, the reason we have speakers is so there's a condensed pack of information that then now gets delineated and delivered to a broader public. But if you really look at that on a granular level, each week, each webinar that's directed to a specific topic, industry, whatever it may be, that's a networking event for those particular people. That's an opportunity, again, for whoever it is that's the producer, because the producer is the one that is spearheading that particular week. So their industry is the one that is the mainstay, right? So they're going to make sure that those networking events that week really come down, really help them, because we're helping them, right? The whole team is now helping support them because they're the producer. So we're now making sure that this thing works well for everybody that's coming in for their industry, because ultimately that run of show is put on the big screen and it's our credit reel. Everybody there knows who did what. They know who was in charge of media, so they know who was in charge of making sure that the presentation was running properly, things were pulled up at the right time, audio was on, audio was off, spotlights were here, muted was here, muted was there. They know who did that. They know who the host was. They know who the speakers were. They know who you understand what I'm saying? They understand that credit, like a movie or a show, whatever it is, that's what we're showing our run of show at the beginning and the end of every one of our sessions. So we give credit to those that did it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's what's going to serve as our foundational platform to ensure every week, week by week, we have new people coming in at every different level, because every week, everyone has an opportunity to engage at a different level on something else that's still very relevant. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we're going to have students come in every week, more and more. The more people come in, the more people see, the more people are going to come in, the more they're going to request the experiences. And all we need to do as a team is show up and give them what they're looking for. Point them to where they want to go. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you guys all have your roles, or and you'll, again, that will document, again, we'll share. I showed it with Vince, the matrix on like which weeks who has what. You can break down, who start with it, so forth and so on. But the webinar itself, let's look at the breakdown. And Alex, you already again have this kind of broken down because you're doing it for the education part, right? So our in-person sessions and our virtual sessions, for the most part, for the webinars and seminars, they run the exact same way. Does that make sense? Everybody got that?
Yep.
They run the exact same way. We do the virtual seminar to mimic and mirror the in-person seminar. So for two reasons. One, so we have a foundational experience for when we go into the in-person. Two, so we have a blueprint for how to do the in-person.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the theater was chosen, the reason it was chosen in that way is because we're able to put up tables. So same thing that we go, whether we're a hospital or a school, where we in the auditorium or in the classroom, or we have to be able to put up, we have to have tables where our seats, where our panelists can sit down and speak. We have to have a screen or a presentation, whether PDFs or PowerPoint or something is pulled up. We have to have a microphone where the speakers can actually speak to a longer audience if it's a larger room, right? Like all of these things we have to make sure that they're accounted for, and that's what these run-up shows are on the webinar side of it, because these are all things that you have to account for. What the positional audio is, what the positional audio is, where the voice boxes are, who can see what, who can access what, what shows at what specific time, on which screen it's going to show on, right? All of those things are the things that you guys are learning to manage and you're practicing week to week. So now when an in-person event happens, you guys are legit ninjas for it. Does that make sense? It's like
Yeah.
no big deal. You can go into any place, any space, and get it set up because you have a blueprint of what you need. The only is now you need to now make sure, okay, how long do we need extension cords, where the computer is going to be plugged in, where the speaker's coming from. These are the added things that you do now, right? When it's an in-person, and you'll learn more about that and where the correlation comes in. And this is where you'll work with Zero a bit more, and see kind of what the technology allows us to do. For our in-person events, what we like to do is go there and then do a 360 camera view of the space, and then take that and then build out a frame space, so then we can have a blueprint, a 3D model blueprint of the space we're going to have the in person, and then build out that space exactly as such. This way, when we get to the in person, we know what our measurements are, we know what where our positioning is, and we can on the fly move things as need be. At the same time, use that space as additional space for attendees that can't be in person. Does that make sense? But still give them something tangible and exclusive, more than just a video, more than just a Google Meet or a YouTube link.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yep.
Cool. And so the last thing I'll say on that, in terms of timing, for the run-up show and for the webinar, I think it's all about from the producer side and the host side. What you have to be mindful of is your speaker wrangler, right? How many speakers do we have are here, right? What is their what are their topics that they're covering? We have baseline PDFs for different subject matter, right? And then they can add a PDF or a picture or a presentation to it. But we want to limit their conversation from 3 to 5 minutes based on how many, right? So in an ideal, we would have 3 speakers, maybe 5 speakers, right? Because at 5 speakers, let's say each one did 2 minutes, right? And there was a 2-minute conversation on lab, 2-minute Q&A. We've just hit, what was that? I think that's 16 minutes. Now we have 5 different speakers and an audience full of people that can now connect with these speakers, either in the space in that theater, or they've clicked on the link to now go to that private space or premium space that that particular speaker would have reserved. Make sense?
Yes.
Everybody follow?
Yep.
Cool. Cool. So, that said, I think that wraps up the webinar portion of it. You guys are still seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this right here, show you, make sure I have the right thing up.
Neville, do we need to extend beyond 11 or?
No. This is gonna take me 2 seconds to do.
Okay.
So, remember I said the email that I'm drafting for each of you, right?
Uh-huh.
These links here are the documents that I was talking about. Alex, you'll get these links. Everybody's going to get these links. I have the email set up specifically because these are the library of documents. I don't want it to be overwhelming for everyone, but I do want to make sure everyone has access to what they need, right? These are the library of links that I'll get that sent over. But these are being organized within the handbook, and each of these, there's just different access points that each will have, because within each of those documents, there's also sub-documents, and then there's also spreadsheets, right? Because there's data that's being documented from each one of these. So the dot form links, the call to actions, the invite codes, all of that's wrapped up in there, so you can access things as you need to. Here and this one, I'll just, so that'll get put out. And then this, I wanted to just show you guys. Does this make sense to everybody so far? This
Yes.
one, right? Has everyone, you've seen this? I explained kind of what it does. Everybody knows where they are, what their role is, and how this all connects.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna just to show you one thing, right? Junior director, as a first time lab, these are your options, right? You come in, you join lab organization, right? Your direct path is to either be in we're gonna put you in one of these pods based on what your interests are, right? You guys are all here, you understand this, right? The
Yep.
goal is that, again, everybody plays a role here, right? So this is what Lab's first mission is, to fill this, to put out that internship at the schools and get however many that are interested in it to now fill these roles so we can then move forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It works better with more people involved, just like any club or organization, right? It works better with more people involved. If you have 2 people in the club, that's great. If you have 20 people, something's happened. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you have 2 people in your internship class, that's great. You can kind of, understand things from an admin side. If you have 8 people, you have now actual programs that are happening, actual content that's coming in, actual distribution of task. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the goal of Lab is to help you go and grow through that. So Lab is set up just like the programs are set up, where our goal is to come in and get multi-year contracts at the schools, right? We want to go into an elementary school and they love what we do for their first grade, so they pick it up for a kindergarten, and they pick up programs from kindergarten to 5th grade. So every year, as those students now graduate, they get access to a different layer, another tier of lab programming. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That carries all the way through high school into university. So that said, that same platform is what Lab is based on. So as I said, you have the green, which is the junior director, you guys, that's just coming in. You have the chapter director, that's the second year, right? Second season. And what their support is Lab still is that main support, right? And their goal is to now manage junior directors in each one of the different pods, right? Which is what Vince is doing now, right? Kind of, right?
Kind of.
Kind of, but is.
Yeah.
Everybody follow?
Yep.
That makes sense? Cool. And I want you guys to look at this, with the fine tooth comb, right? Because this is an organizational chart, and I want to be very, 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 very crystal clear. When people say pyramid and like things like that, be mindful of one thing. What is the product? What is the service? What is the delivery? Right? That's what makes it a pyramid scheme versus a pyramid chart. No matter what the organization is, you need a pyramid organizational chart. There has to be a C-suite, there has to be managers, there has to be field staff, there has to be departments. So you're gonna need a chart and a hierarchy of who's responsible for what. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. So as you're looking at this, the responsibility and opportunity to move up is layered in your repeat and consistent ability to show up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Vince has the opportunity to be chapter director right now because he did what you guys are doing. This is his second season, right? Now let's go into what the advanced looks like. Chapter director 2, that's when now each one of you guys, let's say, because now this can happen within the same, and we are going to go a little over, my apologies. This advance can happen with the same semester, right? That means each one of the junior directors are able to pick up one more campaign, right? So Alex, you have the you're being given the one in the Bronx and the school in Brooklyn. So automatically, that means for Vince, he has one junior director too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Alex, make sense?
That makes sense.
Kami, Kantel, make sense? Perfect. So the goal there again, like I said, so the chapter director is able to learn to manage not just multiple people, but multiple people working on multiple things. Follow? The next step from there is chapter director 3. That's again that's him coming back again that would have been what, the 4th time at this time, right? That's and at this point he now has chapter director 3s, which means that's like you, Alex, now having two first years that have one campaign.
Makes
Does
sense.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Because a junior director 3 is kind of the same thing as a chapter director. Chapter director 2. Because they're managing the 2 campaigns, but the reason that they're 3 is because they don't have a particular chapter yet, right? They didn't elevate into chapter yet. They just have 2 people that are now that are doing campaigns as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So this is where the invite codes matter, because the interviews and things matter, because as you guys are talking to people and connecting with people, applications are coming in, but who those applications and who those applicants are under, which pod they fall under, it all depends on you guys. All depends on after their interviews, like what are they interested in, which direction are we going to put them in, right? So for right now, Alex, you have EJ just jumped on, right? So EJ is now in your pod because he's the media and support staff. We had another application come in over the weekend for somebody else that wants to do the read along. So that's going to be someone else that's now in that pod. You understand what I'm saying? That's how you're able to level up quickly, just by staffing out programs and events, webinars, seminars, so forth and so on. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Yes.
Am I confusing anybody yet, or is this okay?
It's okay.
Okay. All right. Cool. And I'll share the rest of this with you, but this kind of, just jumps into the next layer of it where you have that, because this layer here is when you have your own company. You now start your own business, and now you're at the executive director level where you've sponsored your business is now doing a 12-week campaign, a 13-week campaign, whatever it is, campaign to host a group of interns through this program. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
as Vince is overhauling the handbook, this would be the Ada Zena Foundation. Does that make sense, Vince?
Yes.
Perfect. And that's it. That's it. We go into that final level. This is where there's a director, and now, just again, I'll share this with you guys, but these are just the levels that you can go through as it goes through. So, one thing I'll say really quickly is that, a lot of places will tell you, look to your left, look to your right. You may not see that person. Maybe the last time you see that person, right? I like to go a different direction. I say look to your left, look to your right. Hopefully these are people you know for the rest of your lives, right? Because you've built something with them that you're connected to and benefit from forever. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's the relationship that I really like you guys to have with each other, just like a mutual level of respect and kind of dependency on where, knowing each other's and leveraging that to help each other move forward. To close it all off, this is where we are. This is what we actually have happening right now. Where Vince is the second year, he's in charge of the medical pod. Palmi, Alex, Kung Tao, you're all first years, but you have your individual pods that you're in charge of. The workflow, you guys understand what that is. And I'm acting as executive director with making sure this sponsorship I'm doing as the US Mortgage. So US Mortgage is now sponsoring this particular classes campaign, which is why that fourth layer on the vertical is connected to mortgages. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Anybody coming in, that the three layers are going to be the same. That fourth layer is going to be their particular vertical. Follow?
Yes.
Cool. All right. We went overtime by 7 minutes. My apologies. But that's me. Did we cover everything?
I think we did. We did. Just one note on the webinar. I think when you do wrangle presenters, I think they're gonna fill out a jot form where they will upload all of their assets that they're gonna use. So that kind of gives you
Yeah, so
a rough estimate.
the
Yep.
webinar registration is when they everyone just, I'm not gonna do it right now because again time, but you can, click on the webinar registration. Everybody fill out a test one. I'm gonna update everybody's lab IDs so they know what those are. But fill out a registration and click around and see, because you're using that registration to log in to register for your webinars as well, right? So your invite code, your individual invite codes, when when you're going to that registration form and you're putting in your lab ID, which then opens it up to say, are you an admin? You click yes, and then you select the role that you're going to play for that particular date and time, and then and then you'll be able to register for the webinar. And when you do that, it'll give you the option to enter your specific ID again, to enter your specific ID for so you can register, you can get the 100% off of that premium space. Like when I showed you the space that they pay for, the paywall.
Yeah.
Every time you guys register as admin, you're still going through that paywall, but you're using your invite code to bypass it. You're using your invite code to register for the $100 space because each of you have your office. Each of that premium space, that's what the premium space entails. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everybody? Yes?
Yes.
Cool. Cool. All right, then sorry went over. Any questions from anyone? There's got to be at least one or two. And I know I'm clear, but and I know Vince was clear, but it's got to be a question. If no question, that's cool too. There's a lot to absorb.
There was a lot to absorb. All right. Is there any questions? Why is
I
that
think
still
we
showing?
might be good.
Okay. All right. I'd like to thank everyone for coming to our meeting today. I hope it was beneficial, and I hope it clears out a lot of what we're gonna be doing for the rest of the semester. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Neville or me.
I'm gonna take one quick screenshot. Do a closing attendance
Okay.
before we go.
All right. The handbook is a work in progress. But now that we have the organizational chart and the flow chart in order, it's gonna be much easier. So watch out for that. Maybe end of the week. Um, but yeah. You also have access to that organizational chart. So if you have any clarifications or if you have any questions, reach out to me, or you could also add a comment on those files so that we can address them, and if need be we can change it accordingly. Are there any questions?
Just what does this sunflower do?
It leads you to the lab go hall for
Yes,
the
it
for the
does.
web- for the for the webinar, but we didn't use it. So
All right, cool.
all right. Okay. If you
Alright.
guys don't have any questions, that concludes our meeting, and I apologize for going over the time. And I
Same.
hope I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Would you send us like the summary about what's going on this meeting? Because I was trying to catch up. Like, it's so much information here.
I will
Yes.
send that. Yeah, I will send that. I will send the video, and
Okay.
I will have the AI as well, like the summary
Okay,
to
thank
do that
you.
for us.
Yeah, that's why we make sure we have it recorded so we can then use the AI to take that transcript and summarize it into, just the high points.
Okay. Are there any
All
other
right, guys.
clarifications?
Awesome.
Yep.
Alex, I know we'll be talking quite a bit, Palmi, as well.
Mhm.
And actually, I'll be talking to each of you quite a bit time as well. So over this week to make sure that we're on the same page. After I email my email to each of you, then let's schedule some time so we can go over what those documents are and we can make it less overwhelming. So you just remember, it's just a library of info. And we're just exposing you to that library and then giving you the chance to sift through, use what benefits you. Cool?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, awesome. Then
All right.
I will see you guys later.
All right.
Thank you.
Alright,
Have a good
See
day.
you guys.
Good.
Have a good day.